Hello BookTube. Today for Tag Tuesday, I'm going to be doing the Book Addict tag. This tag is a revisit for me. I'm pretty sure I did it a few years ago when it was originally created. It was created by Elaine Howland, and Micah Cummins did some tag necromancy to resurrect it today for Tag Tuesday. So I'll leave a link to both Elaine Howland's original video as well as Micah Cummins' video from today. So anyway, let's get going. Prompt number 1. What is the longest amount of time you can go without picking up a book? I would say it would be probably about a day that I can go without picking up a book. Although I can get a bit antsy if I'm not reading or anything like that. But sometimes if I'm like painting or something, I can go about a day without reading. Prompt number 2. How many books do you carry on your person or Kindle at any one time? Just one. I only read one book at a time, and normally that book would be the one that I carry, whether in the house or if I'm going places where I have time to be able to read, like waiting for an appointment or that sort of thing. Prompt number 3. Do you keep every book you buy, receive, or are you happy to pass them along? Well, for the past few years, I've pretty much been hoarding my books. I haven't gotten rid of a book in several years now. Although, I mean, of course, a lot of that has to do with the pandemic and finding transportation to go to local, like used bookstores or the Friends of the Library book sale to donate books to. I have in the past been a bit more balanced in the number of books I brought into my library versus the books that I've gotten rid of. But over the past few years, it's been pretty much all acquisitions and no passing along. And so there are times when I am quite happy to pass along my books, but there's also always the nagging suspicion that, well, maybe I will need that book again someday, or I would want to revisit it or reread it or something, and so I regret it. But then there are some books that I don't really regret having passed along. So, prompt number 4. How long would you spend in a bookshop on a standard visit? Probably about an hour to an hour and a half, depending on how big the bookstore is, what time my time budget is, because I'm usually not completely free. I usually have a set of time that I have to be able to browse before either whoever brought me to the bookstore starts to get annoyed with me or the bus comes to pick me back up. Prompt number 5. How much time per day do you actually spend reading? About 3 or 4 hours during the work week, and then about 7 or 8 hours during the weekend, I would think. Prompt number 6. Where does the task of picking up a book appear on your daily to-do list? Rather high, actually. Prompt number 7. How many books do you reckon you own in total, including ebooks? So I'm going to exclude ebooks because I don't have a count of them. But as far as like physical books I have in my library, the number is 1,168. I have 1,138 kind of logged into my library catalog, and I have 30 books that I will be hauling tomorrow and putting them into my catalog. So the number should be 1168, unless I'm miscounting, but I'm pretty sure it's 1168. Prompt number 8. Approximately how often do you bring up books in conversation? Not very often. Most of my family aren't readers, and those that are like books that are very different than the ones I like. So pretty much my bookish conversations are here on BookTube. Prompt number 9. What is the biggest book page count you have finished? I'm going to say it was either um, The Age of Decadence by Simon Heffer or Maria Theresa by Barbara Stolberg-Rillinger. One of the two, I think, is the biggest book I've ever finished. One is about the late Victorian period and Edwardian period, basically 1880 to 1914 and the beginning of World War I. And it is an amazing history. I love it. It was the best book I read last year. And Maria Theresa is, of course, a massive biography of the Austrian Empress Maria Theresa, which is quite good as well. Prompt number 10. Is there a book you had to get your hands on against all odds? I would say yes. I mean, there are rather a number of books that I really want to get my hands on. And so an example would be Volume 8 of Magi, the Labyrinth of Magic by Shinobu Otaka. It's a manga series that I've really come to enjoy quite a lot, and I'm really wanting to pick up collect the series. And Volume 8 has been a pain in the rear end to collect, and I finally got it a few months ago. Of course, Volumes 9, 10, 11, and on will be as difficult to find. Also, The Glorious Foods of Greece by Diane Cachillis. It's a Greek cookbook that came out in 2000 or thereabouts that I had through a food cookbook or a book club. And I really enjoyed the cookbook, and I had gotten rid of it and regretted it. And so about a year or two ago, I finally re-added it to my collection and paid a bit more than I wanted to, and I'm very happy to have it back. So yeah, there are a number of books like that. But those are just two really good examples. Prompt number 11. A book you struggle to finish but refuse to DNF. Bloody Rose by Nicholas Eames definitely fits this prompt the most. Bloody Rose is the sequel to Kings of the Wild. It's part of what is currently a 2-volume duology of a fantasy series that takes place in a kitchen sink fantasy world where mercenary bands have the status of rock stars, and essentially that kind of comparison between the rock bands of the 20th century and these mercenary bands is very intentional and very hilarious. Bloody Rose focuses on Bloody Rose, the daughter of Golden Gabe, who was the frontman of Saga, the mercenary band that was featured in Kings of the Wild. In this novel, while all the other mercenary bands are converging to face another monster horde, Bloody Rose and her mercenary band are going on tour up north because there's a gig up north that they've been hired to do. Accompanying them is a wannabe aspiring bard who sort of joins this mercenary company and basically works with them on their adventures. I hated the first third, or really the first 200 pages of the book. I absolutely hated it. It was basically it was like a reintroduction to the world, it read more like it should have been the first book in a series rather than a sequel. Because by a sequel, the audience should be expected to know the world building. They don't really need this introduction that we get from this new character. And I had a whole lot of other issues with this first 200 pages that just I wanted to bail on it. And I stuck it out. The later 300 pages or so are a significant improvement. I don't think the book is nearly as good as Kings of the Wild, but I mean, at least that last 300 pages is pretty good. Prompt number 12. What are 3 of your main book goals for the year? So there's only a few months left in 2022. One of my book goals is to read all of Full Metal Alchemist by Hiromu Arakawa. It is one of my favorite manga series, and I've talked a lot about Full Metal Alchemist to really go over what it's about. I would also like to collect all of Fairy Tail by the end of the year. Fairy Tail is my favorite manga of all time. It's by Hiro Mishima. I have about 25 volumes to go before I finish that off. So I should make it by the end of the year if I collect 6 volumes a month. And I would also like to read, at least get a start on, or I would like to read the entirety of the 2022 Kindle History Prize shortlist, at least. I think that is a good goal to have. I've become rather interested in the Kindle History Prize, and I really want to sort of experience reading a prize list as the prize is sort of working its way through. Sort of how like a number of booktubers do with the Women's Prize or the Booker Prizes, or Greg of Supposedly Fun does with the Pulitzer Prize. So I kind of want to do that with the Kindle History Prize. The shortlist will be announced in a little less than a month, so see how that goes, and if I happen to have any books that are on the shortlist in my collection, or what I have to pick up, or something, or however that works out. It probably would be more like November or even into December when I can do that, though. So we'll see how that turns out. But those are my 3 main book goals for the rest of the year. So in your booktube, if you would like to do this tag, consider yourselves tagged, and I will see you with my August book haul tomorrow. It's, again, 30 books, so it might be a long one. So in your booktube until then, thank you, have a great afternoon, and stay safe.